Hello, beautiful rising community, and welcome to another session of Purpose, Passion, Purpose, and Profit. Today, I am with Dan Cumberland, and he is on a mission to help you set yourself on fire. We love fire. Host of the Meaning Movement podcast and founder of videosnap.io. I want to hear all about that. He's been featured in Entrepreneur Magazine, Fast Company, Career Builder, and so many more. Welcome, Dan. So great to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm just so thrilled to be here. Thanks for the invite. So fun to connect.
Yeah, before we dive in, I really want to hear about this Video Snap. Can we start there?
Yes, absolutely. So Video Snap is a tool for repurposing long-form speech-based content. So you can think of like this interview or a podcast or a speech or a talk or a YouTube video into short-form viral-ready video for social media. What it does is you upload a long form piece. So again, you could upload like a full length podcast. The software will transcribe the whole piece for you. Then you can just go through the text and highlight the text that corresponds to the section that you want to make into a short. Just click a button and the software will break it into moments, find B-roll to go behind those moments and create a text over video style video. So the first clip, if it was like, if you uploaded this interview, it might be me talking as the first clip, and then it might cut to someone else, to based on what we're talking about in our conversation, to maybe other people having a conversation, since I keep talking about conversation. So it uses AI to look at the text and find video that matches that text to quickly make a short for social media. Because as we know, social media everything is moving towards short form video, TikTok, Reels, YouTube Short, et cetera, et cetera. So my goal with creating this tool was to make a way for people that create lots of great content to find like those really gold moments and get it out in front of more people to grow their impact, to grow their, we do so much, put so much heart into all this long form content, and then it doesn't perform well on social. So I'm trying to solve that problem for folks. So that's Video Snap.
Great, and that sounds like such a brilliant idea and very, very useful. We're talking here in the summit about how we can align our sacred work, our mission in life with success, right? We all want success. Success is why we're here for. And this is the driving force that will propel us to do even more goodness in the world. And so I love this shortcutting sweet tools that can make our life easy, right? Because
and that's really a big reason for it is I like to bring so much purpose to everything that I do. With the podcast that I host, it's all about these ideas of purpose and meaning and helping people find more and do more of those things. But if we're just doing it and no one is hearing about it, right, you have so much smaller of an impact. So trying to take these meaningful things that we're trying to do in the world and invite people to, and find ways to get it out in front of more people.
Right. Yeah. That sounds great. So go check it out, guys. So today we're going to be speaking about how to find freedom from the past, live fully in the present, and create a brighter future. So I love how you speak about past, present, and future, and the continuum of how we evolve, right? So yeah, let's dive right in. What are your super tips of how can we do exactly that?
Yes, I love it. The first thing that comes to mind with this idea of creating, as we think about the future, is this continuum that we typically think of time as starting in the past, flowing through the present, and into the future. And maybe that might be how a clock might run, but psychologically that's not how our experience works. And so it's easier or better to think about time from a experience standpoint psychologically as flowing from the past to the future and then to the present. And what I mean by that is our past experiences shape how we think about ourselves, our identity, it's a narrative, it's a story that we're telling ourselves. That story might be something that we put a lot of thought into and have a lot of control over, or it might be something that we've just evolved over time from all of our experiences, all the stories that other people have told us about ourselves, that culture has told us about ourselves, all of those things, institutions that we've been a part of, schools, governments, all of those things are always telling stories about who we are and what it means to be who we are. And with all of that in mind, then that past makes this lens that we then use as we think about the future. And then based on what we see in the future, which is a reflection of what we've lived and understood about ourselves and of the past, that then shapes how we live in the moment. So in order to change your future, it's not about just changing what you do in the moment, but working from where you began, what your story is, and finding the meaning there that you can then shape your vision of the future in order to then change how you live in the present. And unless you're able to connect all of those dots, your attempts to change in the present moment often will fall flat because you're not connected as deeply with the roots of that story in your narrative, in your history, in your past. The change that we try to implement without a full picture of where you've come from and where you're going, the change you try to create in the present won't last, it won't be as deep, won't resonate as much with who you are and where you're trying to go. So in order to do that, the first place that we want to start again is the past, in order to change our vision, our the way we think about who we can be, where we're going, the story that we're telling, the future that we're creating. And out of that, then we flow into the present moment and all the choices, the thousands and millions of choices we make every single day on how we live our lives.
Right, that's quite an interesting point of view I have not heard before. And what I'm hearing is that you almost entering the present moment as the connection between the past and the future. You can only change it from now, but you want to have the full spectrum of from where you came and where you want to go, so that you can make the change from the present. Did I get it right?
Exactly. That's exactly right. Yes. Yes.
Right. Right. And so that you have a bigger vision, right? Because you can see kind of the journey ahead, and from there you start reverse engineering of what you need to do to get
Correct.
there, right?
Yes, yes. Yeah, and part of it is that we think about the present, when we think about the past, present, and the future, and what is most changeable, we often would say either the present or the future are the most changeable, the place where we have the most influence. But I would argue to some extent the past is also, it may be the place where we have the most ability to make change. And the reason is because as we understand the forces that have shaped us into who we are, as we tell those stories and understand how they have come about, what meaning we assign to the experiences that we've had, the more we're able to then have control over our present and the future. So then by changing, we're not changing the facts of the past, right? What has happened has happened. And there's no way that we can go back and change that we know of to go back and change the literal events. But what we can change is the meaning that we assign to those events. So if you had a very traumatic and horrible experience in your past, someone did something really horrible to you, you can't make that not have happened. But what you can do is change the way you understand the meaning that you assign to that event. And that starts just by telling that story, by living in that story, by understanding to some, whatever extent you can, how you have power, how you have agency, how you had it then, and how you in the present can speak back to that person that you were then. And by doing that, by being maybe the adult or the parent or the guide, the guardian, the mentor, whatever it is, to that younger version of yourself, you're then changing the meaning of that moment, so that in the present moment now here in this moment here, you can then reinterpret what has happened to you, so that then you can become a different person now based on that change that you just created in your past.
Absolutely, I'm with you on that one. As somebody that works a lot with trauma healing, I know that what happens in a traumatic moment, and trauma is not only this one big event that changes life from here to there. It can be also, you know, developmental and along some time. But what happens is that we approach it from a certain a state of mind, so we can be the victims of it, we can be the heroes and heroines of it, but also we have an imprint in that moment, if it was a moment.
Yes.
And then we tell ourselves a story from a place where we maybe not processed our emotions properly, or we haven't had the full picture of what actually happened, and not to underestimate what we feel about it at all, because this is all super valid, right? In fact, we do have to go and process all the emotions. But when we do that and we are able to see maybe the bigger picture, and we are able to cultivate also the great teachings and lessons that always comes with any experience, then we can then harvest those blessings in disguise to shape us, and even, you know, I like to say, to unlock our inner doors of greatness.
I love that. I love that. I couldn't have said it better myself. Totally agree. That is the true work of unlocking those places where we might be, you know, bound up by the past and by the experiences that have, like you use the word trauma, you know, that have traumatized us, that have harmed us and created that pain. That pain then can so often shape us in ways that we wouldn't choose to live into those realities, but because we haven't processed those feelings, like you're saying, those experiences have so much weight over our self, like the way we think about ourselves, the way we think about our future, the way we think about what is possible for us. And then if we're not even thinking about something as being possible, we don't take the attempt, we don't make the risk, we don't say yes to opportunities that come our way, because they don't fit with the version of ourselves that we hold in our minds.
Yeah, and that's how we get stuck, right?
Yes.
And I think the whole entire work is how now to get unstuck, how to release the painful events of the past, cultivate the lessons, and build ourselves to the best future version of what we can be, and actually what we came here to be.
Yes, I totally agree. Yeah. And so often stuckness, that sense of being stuck, not being sure what to do next, we get so fixated on looking outside of of all of the options, and we make, you know, pros and minuses, you know, benefits and risks, you know, do all these analyses of like, I could do this or I could do that, but so often the solution isn't out there. It's not about finding the right choice, but about the very question of, why am I stuck to begin with? What is it in me that's how is it serving me, or maybe serving a past version of myself, to not be able to make a choice in this moment? And I think if you can answer that question, that can be a much more, and it's not an easy question to answer, but think about it and see where that takes you. And if you're in a stuck moment, for anyone listening, I want to invite you to this work, because it might not be about just finding the right opportunity to come next, but it might be more about, why is it that you haven't been able to make a choice to say, yes, I'm going to go do this or do that? And that might take you to a place that might get to like that real, like you said, like the real thing behind that stuck feeling. It's not about the choices out there. It's about the choice, how the choice is landing in you, and your inability to grab onto one of those choices and say, I'm going to go and do this thing.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And, you know, as somebody that has done a hell of a lot of work on myself, because I came from a very traumatic childhood, I had so much to heal. I was such a mess. I knew that if I want to get anywhere in life, I do need to go through the fire of transformation. And being courageous as I am, I jumped off the cliff, went all the way, and did a lot of work. This is why I can do what I'm doing today. And, you know, my kind of takeaway from it all is that life is always serving you to grow and expand to your soul full capacity. And so however you lead your life, all the experiences that came your way, the beautiful, the ugly ones, all of it is part of your unique signature initiations.
Yes, I love that. Well, it's such a beautiful idea that life is always serving you, that even the hard and the painful things, that in that, like, there's good in that if we can have the eyes to see it. And so often we live in I guess live in the negative and the fear, or the negative feelings that separate us from even experiencing that goodness. And if we can just let go of some of our anxiety over whether or not, things are going to work out, for example, or whatever it might be, in order to accept the present moment and what is happening right now, then maybe we can have more eyes to see. Like, I think it's that our fear of our present reality often creates the negative feelings that keep us from wanting to feel the very present moment, if that makes sense. And so I just love how that invitation, like, that life is always working out for you, that of all of the things, even the things that you feel like might be bad at the first take, or experientially bad. And I can't, for anyone here who's listening, I can't say, why something happened and point out it and find the good in it. But the invitation, I think, is to just wonder about what could be the good of that. There's this this ancient, I think it's from the 17th century poem by Mashi, I think is his name. I'm going to totally slaughter it. Let me just look it up real quick. But it speaks to this. Here it is. Masaid is his name. He is a samurai turned poet. Are you familiar with this, with him and his work? And he has a haiku, and this is a translation of a Japanese haiku, so it doesn't fit the form, but it just speaks to me so clearly about this very idea that we're talking about. And it goes like this. It's very short. My barn having burned down, I can now see the moon. When I hear that, it just hits me at such a deep level. I get so many feelings about that, because it's so exactly what we're talking about here, and what you're inviting people to, that life is always moving us towards something, and there's always some good that is emerging. And the process of being human is to always be evolving and becoming that next version of ourselves. And even through the pain, as Masai here is inviting us to, the pain of his barn burned down, right? Like, that's a horrible experience. And then he's able to say, I can now see the moon because the barn's not in the way anymore. And how much for me, I see here in that an invitation to look for the beauty that comes from the pain.
Yeah, so beautifully said. I love it. And sometimes it's really hard to see it when we're still in that pain. So that's why I suggested that it's important to first process all the feelings, and if there's grief and sorrow and heartache, that needs to be felt, that needs to be processed. That's the step number one. But always under that, under grief and under all those emotions, there's also always the other side of it, which is more freedom and more joy and more pleasure, and they kind of go hand in hand. I always say that you can't fly to the heights of bliss if you haven't dived to the bottoms of sorrow. They go hand in hand.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Right. And so I wanted to ask you if you have any actionable process or a certain way that one can go through that journey and that would be amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a couple things I would say. The first is I think I want to just talk about, like, that I've already talked a little bit about that feeling of being stuck. And I think there's some tools I can offer people specifically around that I think would be really, really helpful. And then I know I have an exercise I would like to lead people through. But first, I want to give some brain work, and then we can move on to the body work. When you feel stuck, when you feel like you're at an impasse, it's typically because there are things that are at odds in you. So there's desires that are at odds with other desires. There are responsibilities or commitments that are at odds with other responsibilities and commitments. And it can be really helpful to try to just to begin to kind of parse out, what are all the things going on? What are all the voices in this conversation that often we're unaware of unless we actually take the time to sit and explore it. And so in whatever arena you're in. So I work a lot of times with people around what are they going to do with their lives, words like calling, vocation, career change. I often will have people, start with this, but it doesn't have to be about career. It could be about some other place in your life. But I want to invite you to just choose an exercise that just can be profoundly freeing and liberating around this. To take some time, just get a sheet of paper and just write down all of the shoulds and should nots or in rules that you feel about whatever situation that you're in. And so it might be, that I'm going to use the example of work because that's where I've done most of my work with people. But I need to have a good paying career. Like that might be one of them. I need to make 6 figures. I need to do something that contributes to society. I need to like work should be hard, like work shouldn't be fun, and on all of these, anything that comes up. And it might be about race, it might be about gender, it might be about your spirituality, it might be about your family, might be about how culture is tells us that we need to live up to these unrealistic expectations. Whatever it might be, just get them all out. And even if you're not even sure 100% what the words are, just start writing and see what comes, and just brainstorm all of those out on a piece of paper. And then after you've done that, so first get it all out, next go through and just think about each one, and as much as possible put a name next to it. And that might be a parent. It might be a community that you've been a part of, a culture. It might be an author that you follow, or a speaker or a thinker or something. And there's going to be, some of these will be, things that you really love and value, and others you might not. And so you try not to have like a positive or negative judgment about any of these, but just get it all out, and as much as possible, assign those sources to it. And at the end of that, you'll have this sheet of all of these narratives that we're continually telling ourselves. And then as you look through them, you'll again start to see that some of these are at odds with each other. Like one of them, especially when it comes to work, might be that work should be fun. Like do what you love might be one of them. And at the same time, and that might come from maybe a teacher or a mentor or something. And maybe you also had a parent who always said, work shouldn't be fun. Work is hard. And so you should go work hard. And so if you're holding on to those two narratives at the same time, of course you're going to be stuck in this moment of choosing what to do next, because you don't know which one of these voices to follow, right? Because they're pulling you in two opposite directions. So you're literally stuck between these, and you'll see that in many, many different areas of life. And so what a magical thing happens when you get those out. All of a sudden, even just by writing them down and assigning those names, you start to feel lighter, and that tension starts to resolve, because by naming it, by putting language to it, you then begin to grab back some of that agency. And by agency, I mean your ability to choose how you engage with it. And you can say, okay, I know that my dad always said that I needed to work a job that was super hard, and that was probably because that's the choice he made, but I don't know if that's the choice that I want to make right now in my life. And you can begin to start parsing these out, and you can take it to another level, and you keep working with it, and go through and maybe circle some of the ones that you feel like these are good values that I want to hold on to, that I want to guide the next season of my life. Maybe even add some more that you want to include and bring in. But it's a way that you can start seeing, okay, here are all the voices that are at play. Here are some that I want to leave behind, and then here are the ones that I want to then lean into and accept and use as guidance over me. And then as far as those ones that like we're leaving behind, another activity that you can do is spend some time meditating, thinking, dwelling, even maybe writing to each one of those people and thanking them for their contribution to your journey, to how far they've brought you, maybe how far that story has brought you, how it's protected you, how it's cared for you. And also, thank you so much for that. And now it is time for me to move on, in order to just bless that and say, that was there to protect me. There may have been, maybe there was ill harm, maybe they meant harm, maybe they meant it for good, I don't know, but for whatever reason, it was a part of my story, and it's time to move on. And so thank you, and goodbye is really what I'm inviting you to there, so that then you can just create more space for you to really find your own voice in the midst of all of these voices. So that's, as far as just a tangible activity, would really love to invite people to that. And you can do that whether it's about your work, whether it's about some other choice that you're thinking of making.
I love it. I love it. I think it's such a brilliant exercise, because so many of us are really stuck in making a decision moving forward. And we many times don't know why we're stuck. And underneath is exactly that, different pulls from different people. And we are so very shaped by especially our fundamental, caregivers, our mother,
Yes.
our father, our family, our tribe, our society. And oftentimes we don't recognize that it is not our soul calling. It's not authentic to who we are. And oftentimes
Yes.
we moved away from our authenticity because we wanted so badly to feel belong, to feel part of the tribe, to feel
Yes.
loved unconditionally, which for most of us that was not the case.
Yes.
And also, to feel accepted and belong. So
Yes.
we oftentimes moved away from our inner inner passion. And I always say that it is when we align to our passion and what we came here to do, this is where we find God, right? Call it
Yes.
God, call it Goddess, call it Allah, call it Jesus, it does not matter. But that divine energy, we find it when we are aligned to what we are here to do. And if we
Yes.
don't know what we are here to do, because we've been told so many things, bless those people. Usually it is with good intentions, but they also don't know, right? They want to shape us to be successful and accepted in the largest scale of our society. And we're coming from a very wounded society, so
Yes.
we have to be aware of that, right?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself. I love that.
Yeah. So I love your exercise. I think that, writing is therapeutic to begin with. Anything. I just love writing. And when you write, you have a little bit of space between your thoughts that are running in your mind. And you have to kind of put them into words, and you have a bit of space to see them and value them, and meet them on another level. And then when you start getting those names in, I love that. I think that's so important. You can really start kind of mapping them to who they are belong, and then you can make the decision whether you want to keep on carry them, or it's time to sweetly let them go.
Yes. Yes, exactly. I feel like it's like you're like reaching in a bag, right? And you don't know what's in there, and you grab something, pull it out by writing it down, like, oh, I didn't know that was in there. And then you're like, oh, I didn't know that was in there. You're pulling these things out. And then you have, by putting them down on paper, then you can start playing with them. You're like, oh, this is kind of weird. I don't know that I like this. Or, oh, wow, this is gold. This is so good. I want to keep this, and then put it back in that. But all the other things, let's clear it out. Let's lighten that load so you don't have to carry it around all the time.
Right. And maybe even take it a step further, and then write, what qualities do you want to embody? So who do you want to be? What do you want to achieve and become? And then see if that aligns, if what you have written is actually getting you there, right?
I love that. Yeah. Well, I wanted to just do another exercise, more really about what you're just saying about who do you want to become. And I think that it pairs beautifully, you know, it's a beautiful transition that you you just set us up for there. And so this, you know, maybe that was maybe heart and mind, and I want to really get in the body here. So what I'd like to do is just lead us through an activity we could just do in real time, and so you can come into this maybe even after having done some of that work of writing, and then thinking about a question, whether it's a question of what you want to do, you know, a choice, you know, again, maybe coming back to that stuckness after you've cleared out some space, the stuck choice of what direction you want to go. Or maybe it's something more general, like you're saying about like the values that you want to be be living, the who you want to be. So choose a question. That's the first place to start. And then I'm gonna walk us through just a couple minutes. It won't take very long, of just like just an embodiment exercise around that question, whatever question people are bringing. So first, and then we're just gonna take work through an activity around.
Yeah, great. I just lost you for a moment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but you're back now? Okay, yeah.
I'm just gonna start everyone is ready. So have your question of what it is that you're thinking about, whether it's a stuck point, whether it's the values, the question of who you want to be, which I love, Nuna, that you offered that to us. So close your eyes. Just take a moment just to feel your body. Breathe deep. Feel the air going in and out of your lungs. Feel your heart. If you can feel it, find it beating somewhere in your body. Feel free to touch your pulse somewhere if that would be helpful. But whatever you need to do to just get into your body in this moment. We've been talking a lot, using our minds a lot, and sometimes we can lose our bodies in the conversation. And just come back to that question that we brought in here. Now picture your life like a thread. From the moment you were born to this moment, and run that thread through your fingers. Just imagining it, sliding your fingers along that thread. And anytime there's a bump or a knot or a wrinkle, a twist, just pull that thread through, and all of those knots and twists and bumps, they just fade away. So that now you're able to have a straight thread all the way back from the moment you came into this world to now. Now bring that thread back to this present moment. And now let's follow it the other direction into the future. All the way till when you depart from this world. Now come back to that question that you have. And picture a place that's peaceful, a location that feels at peace to you, a physical location. So maybe it's a forest, maybe it's a beach, maybe it's in the clouds, on a mountaintop, I'm not sure, but wherever that goes for you, and enter into that. Imagine yourself in that place, walking into that space. And somewhere in that space, you find yourself toward the end of your life, maybe standing, maybe sitting. You see yourself across the space and move over to face yourself at the end of your life. picture your face, an older version of yourself, maybe with lines, and look into your eyes and see kindness. See yourself looking back, the older version of yourself looking at your present version of yourself and smiling and giving love. But bring that question that we entered with and offer it to that older version of yourself. And with kindness and love, that older version of yourself has something to say back to you. And it could be with words, it may be an expression, but they offer something to you related to that question. Maybe it's an answer, maybe it's a feeling, maybe it's an expression. And smile back at them. Thank them. And then come back to this moment with whatever they offered to you and bring it back to the present. And then you can open your eyes and come back into the room. And I hope that I find that, especially in this space of thinking about the stories that have shaped us and all of these things, we can get so into our heads. And my hope is that with an activity like that, we're able to connect more to our hearts, to our bodies, and make space for ourselves in our minds, but then also with our bodies. And I hope that I want to ask if that took you somewhere, but also don't know if that's mine to know. And so if that did, I'd love to hear about it. And if not, that's okay too.
I thought it was amazing experience. I always do work with the inner child, and here it's the other side of it. It's the elder inner child, and
yes.
For me, there was such a sense of so much love. And I think that was my takeaway, is whatever I do, just do it from that space.
Yes.
And this is what I'm here to do, is just to emanate that love. And it was very, very beautiful. Thank you.
That's awesome. Absolutely. And like, what a beautiful thing to bring back, and how much better of a place to be in facing whatever choice we're making, to feel full of love, love for ourselves, love for who we are and what we're creating in the world. And how much better are we able to make choices full-hearted rather than out of fear or scarcity or anxiety or whatever it might be. So hopefully that's helpful for folks to go through. I know I went through it rather quickly, but feel free to, for everyone watching, if there's a pause button, you can go back and do it again, and go slower, whatever serves you best.
Beautiful. And I really suggest to do that exercise after the writing. I think that's really a beautiful journey together. And sometimes we get stuck in the idea of whether it's right or wrong. And I think that this is maybe something that we have to be a little bit more, not so much charged about right or wrong, because sometimes the action forward is what matters, even if we do something wrong.
Yes. That's so good.
Right? It still propels us to learn a lot of lessons out of that mistake, because that's when we learn the most. And it set us onto a momentum of action, and that brings more action. And when we do one step, the universe comes our way and propels it forward. So, sometimes it's also about just not getting stuck on the right and wrongness of things and really just do it.
Love it.
It's pulling and pulling, just do it. Yeah.
Yes, an analogy that comes to mind related to, I mean, I couldn't agree more. And thank you so much for that. That imperfect action is so valuable. The analogy that comes to mind is I remember years ago driving went on a ski boat with some friends, and I have not spent much time on boats, but it took me a long time to figure it out. Like you can't steer the boat unless the engine is on, like the jet has to be going. Otherwise, even if the boat is moving in the water, if you turn the handlebars or the steering wheel, like it won't do anything unless you have that engine, unless you have that propulsion on. And I think it's a really great analogy for life. Yeah, sure, we could be moving along and be just moving along with the current, but you can't steer your life unless you have the engine on, unless you're taking that action. It doesn't have to be the perfect action. It might even have to be the imperfect action to get you moving so that you can turn towards something better. And you don't know what that is until you've stepped into it and taken that step. So thank you for that. Such a beautiful reminder.
Right. And get your fire on, right? Like ignite your fire.
That's right. That's right. That's what I'm all about. I just want people to light themselves on fire. That analogy just it speaks to me. So yes.
Great. Thank you so much. We have to bring this conversation to a wrap. It's been really such a pleasure. And I know that you also have a beautiful gift you offer to our audience.
Yes.
I'll let you speak into that.
Yeah. I've just a mini course. It's an email course called 5 Clues to Your Calling. I created this course just to really help people take similar to some of the questions that we did today, but in shorter bite-sized form, that every day you'll get a short email. Only takes a couple minutes to read with a prompt for you to do some writing, reflection, or meditation about. So focus on 5 different aspects of work and meaning in order to get free. Like we've talked about, find the freedom that you need in order to find your voice and step into work and meaning and purpose, whatever manifestation that's looking like that's on the horizon for you. So I have that available. I don't know if we have a link with the video, and so you can just find that wherever you're watching this.
Great. Yeah, we'll have a button right here below so you can go and download this beautiful offering. Thank you so much. And if people want to find you, what's the best place to get in touch with you?
Yeah, I love that. You can find me at themeaningmovement.com. If you like podcasts, you can find that wherever you listen to podcasts. I have a show where we talk about many of those things. If you're a content creator and you would like to get that great stuff that you're making onto social media, look up videosnap.io. We have a free trial that you could jump on. I would love for you to give it a try. But just look up the Meaning Movement, and you can find my work there.
Thank you so much, Dan, for being here and for your insights and wisdom and energy. And thank you for what you're doing in the world and for being here. You are such an awesome person, and I'm sending you blessings and lots of love.
Thank you so much. It means so much to me, and I really appreciate all the goodness you're putting out into the world. Thank you so much for being a part of this, and it's just been a really fun conversation.
Great. And for you, the audience, lots of love for me. If you have any comments, please write below, any takeaways, any questions, and please get the VIP ticket so you can have all those wonderful conversations to watch them again and again. And until the next time we meet, all my love. Bye.